everybody, welcome back to another One Seed a Day video, and today is very interesting. We are here with a beekeeper, Dr. Cyril Robinson, but I'll allow him to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Cyril. I'm a beekeeper.
What's your first job though?
My day job?
Your day job.
My day job is I'm a dentist.
Dentist and a beekeeper. So tell us, how long have you been doing beekeeping?
I started about maybe 8 years ago.
8 years ago?
Yeah, but seriously, after the hurricane. Yeah.
So what piqued your interest into going into beekeeping?
Well, I was always interested in doing some farming, and without bees, you don't have the yields that you should get of avocado and stuff like that, pumpkins and cucumbers. So I was just kind of interested in just dabbling around. And then one thing, or one bee led to the next. Yeah, and here we are.
Here we are. So how many hives do you have?
We have about 50 hives.
50?
Yeah.
And a hive is a colony?
A hive is a colony. So
Okay.
in this apiary, we have maybe 10 hives.
10 hives here. And then you have them all around the island?
Not just on the west coast.
Different locations?
Yeah.
And what was your reason for doing that?
Well, since after the hurricane, we lost a lot of the forest trees. So you don't have that density of forage for the bees. So you don't want to overload one area. And so that's one good reason. Also, in case of some sort of misadventure, you don't want to lose everything at one time. So you just kind of basically spread the risk.
Okay.
Also, you want diversity in your bees, and you want to have hives in different places so you can have more diversity in your genetics.
Okay, good. And like you said, bees are important to our daily life.
Yeah, bees are more important than most people realize. Around 40% of the fruit and veg that you eat is pollinated by bees. Ordinary everyday things like carambola, West Indian cherry, avocado,
And we love avocado.
seaweed, stuff like that. Bees have a definite role. When the bees are born, hatched. It's 21 days between laying the egg and the egg hatching out.
Okay.
And then when it's hatched, it becomes, the young bees have a certain role. That role includes taking care of the brood. The brood is the young larvae, feeding them, feeding the queen, because the queen doesn't feed itself. The queen is a queen. It doesn't feed itself. It doesn't do anything. They have to groom it and they have to queen it. They have to feed it. So the queen lays an egg in each of those little hexagons. And the young bees feed them. They make something called royal jelly. And at a different stage, they make wax.
Okay.
And they use the wax to make the comb.
And they make the honey.
They make the honey.
Okay.
Honey is actually made by older bees. When the bees are older, so they go through the stages in life. As a young bee, as a nurse bee, as a forager. The foragers are the ones you see out and about.
Getting the...
Those are the ones that go out and get the pollen and they get the nectar to make the honey.
Awesome.
So, sounds kind of a little disgusting. You can cut that part. But the bees get the nectar, and then they have a special stomach that they store the nectar in.
Interesting.
And then they pass that nectar onto another bee.
Okay.
And then that other bee passes on to another bee.
So they're passing on nectar.
From one bee to the next. And as it goes from one bee to the next, it gets this enzymes added to it. That's what becomes honey.
Honey.
Otherwise, it's just sugar water. That's why
bees have two stomachs?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, that kind of simplifies a bit, but something like that, yes.
Yeah.
So, honey is basically sugar with enzymes in it. Once you heat up the honey and you kill the enzymes, you just have sugar.
Sugar.
Yeah. So raw honey is really what you want to eat.
Okay.
The bees that actually make honey are the old bees. When they are at the end of their lifespan, they are the ones that go out. And in the hive, you have all kind of roles. You have undertaker bees. The undertaker are the ones that take out the dead bees.
Interesting.
You have bees that clean.
So this is a perfectly organized system.
That's right. And you have bees that guard. You have guard bees that stay at the front and guard to prevent other bees from coming in to rob.
So the bee movie was true.
Yeah.
The bee movie was true. So explain something to me. How does the queen come about? Who chooses the queen?
So a bee society is a perfect democracy.
Wow.
The way it's organized, 90% of the bees are female, and they're all sisters, full sisters. The other 10% are males.
Males.
So the males have the easy part. The males don't work, they don't gather honey, they don't make honey, they don't clean, they don't do anything. All they do is eat honey and have sex with the queen.
So mate and die.
But there's a downside to that. They can only mate once.
So mate once and die. So break your virginity and
That's
go
right.
on.
That's right. when the males have sex with the queen the first time, when they ejaculate, it pulls this thing out of their stomach basically, and they die.
What?
So it's not all good.
It's not. It's one time for a man, not
That's
happy
one
to be a
time.
man.
So the bees make a queen by choosing an egg. No one knows how they do it,
Okay.
and they feed that egg more royal jelly than the normal eggs, and it becomes a queen. And maybe we might find we usually mark the queens. We might be able to see one.
So out of a hive is a box or a hive is the entire
A hive is the colony.
the colony.
It can be one box, it can be two, it can be three, it can be as many as you want.
And out of that entire colony there's one queen.
One queen.
And her purpose is to breed.
Her purpose is to lay eggs.
That's it.
So the bees take an egg and they develop it by feeding it more royal jelly than usual and it becomes a queen. After 16 days it hatches out and it's a queen. It hangs around the hive for 2, 3 days, 4 days, where it matures, the wings develop, then it goes out to mate. It mates as often as it can for about 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And it has a special organ in its body that it stores all the sperm.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it goes back to the hive and it doesn't leave again, except it has to swarm. That's a different story. So it goes back to the hive, and the queen can lay up to about 2,000 eggs a day.
Wow.
All the queen does is lay eggs and eat honey. They
That's
feed
a
it.
queen.
They feed it honey. They groom it. They feed it everything, and it just lays. So the queen can last up to 5 years, but usually it doesn't. When it runs out of sperm, they kill it, and they make another queen.
So when she mates only one time to store all the sperm.
The queen has a good time for about 2 or 3 days.
Okay. And
It
she
goes
stores
out,
that until
It stores all the sperm it can, and that will last it for maybe 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And it lays every day, as long as there's enough food in the hive. It's a perfect democracy. The bees figure out how much pollen is around, how much nectar is around, how many bees they can support in the hive. And as long as they have enough honey, and they store enough honey, they have enough pollen, the queen just lays every day.
Every day. And okay, so that 10% of male bees, what happens
Good
to
time,
them?
guys.
Good time, guys. What happens to them when like the queen stores all? Because she doesn't need them for a while.
So here's how bees are perfect. The queen never mates with his brothers because everybody in the hive is related.
Right.
So the queen goes out, goes in here. No one has figured out exactly how it works, but there's something called a drone congregating area. It's a place where the drones just hang out. And
So
they
like
just
a
wait for
guy
a queen.
club.
Yeah. Like a bar. Like a singles bar for men.
Right.
You just hang out there, and the queens, when they're laid, nobody knows how to find it. I think it has something to do with the tree line and the altitude. It's about 30 feet high, so just 30 meters. And the queen finds its way there. And there's a melee.
Wow.
And all the single guys go at it for as much as they can.
Oh my
You'll mate with
God.
maybe 20 drones.
Okay, wow.
And then after that good time is done, it goes back to the hive and it bids a mum.
That's it. That's a heavy job, you know. That's a heavy job.
Yeah, so
It's a heavy job.
that's how it works.
So 90% of that colony is female bees. What do you call them?
These are workers.
Worker bees.
So
and they do everything.
Workers do everything, but they have their tasks assigned. So they're undertakers, they're ones that guard, they're the ones that feed the queen, they're the ones that make the wax. One bee doesn't do everything, and it does different things at different stages in its life, just like humans do, but better organized.
Okay. Way better organized.
Yeah.
And what's their usual lifespan?
Usual lifespan for bees 6 to 7 weeks.
Weeks?
Worker bee,
Wow.
yeah. For the
wow.
queen,
That's like
queen-
1 week of doing something, next week
Yeah,
you're in another
yeah,
room.
yeah.
Oh my God.
and for the queen, usually around 3 years, but it can last up to 5 years. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so the queen comes out and it finds this place and it meets the guys, it hangs out for 2 or 3 days. You know,
What's a queen?
yeah.
So basically you set the corn.
We buy this, we coat it with wax.
Okay.
You can see it's uneven in some places, so we coat it with wax and we put it in here and the bees do the rest.
Okay. And the wax is from the previous bees?
Yes.
Okay.
So we try to be as
Sustainable as possible.
there you go.
Got the word.
This one is pretty calm. So
So no smoking required?
smoking is always required. We like to pretend we know what we're about. Cut. No. Kote. Sobat foto kita nak buat sudah.
So this is considered one big colony? Oh my god, actually. So tell us what happens when you have so many bees in a...
When you have too many bees and it gets overcrowded, there's no space for the queen to lay anymore. And the bees have this instinct where they decide, this is too crowded, we need to go somewhere else. We need to find a new home. And so they start producing a new queen. When that new queen is about to be hatched, the old queen takes anywhere up to 3/4 of the population of the hive and it finds a place. And in that new place, they form a new hive. The one that's left behind, the queen that's left behind, it forms a new hive, a new colony. And the one that's left behind takes over and continues business as usual.
And what's the way that you keep them when they are overcrowded?
So what we do is, for one, you try to reduce the number of bees by taking some and making a new colony, or don't stand in front, hold this side. Or
And it's like fast.
yeah, or you can add more space, add more boxes, or you can create more space by taking out the honey. So all of that creates space for the bees to say, oh, we're not so crowded anymore.
Okay.
We can stay in here.
So we asked Dr. Rubble, what are the 5 quickiest ways we can start a hive? And we call it Fast 5 to starting a hive. Tell us.
The most important thing and the very first thing is you have to be interested.
Interest is number 1.
Interest is numero uno. Getting started, you need to find a beekeeper who's willing to mentor you. That is extremely important.
Mentorship 2.
You need to buy some equipment. You need some protective gear. Except some of us don't really need it because we're so brave.
And we didn't get no stings.
You need some protective gear, a jacket, a veil, and your equipment, a hive tool, smoker. You need to have some bees.
And where can we find these?
You can find bees from any established beekeeper who sells bees.
Okay.
And usually a bee starts, you can buy any amount of bees, but most people buy a nuke box, which is a starter hive. And from there you have to buy more equipment.
To increase your colony.
To increase your colony, to increase the number of bees. Because as the number of bees you have grows, you need to have bigger boxes and more boxes to accommodate them.
Okay.
And the fifth thing is you need to have somewhere to put your bees.
Okay.
So you need, if you're a farmer, great. If not, you need to find some land, friend, family, neighbor who's willing to host you. And it really doesn't take a lot. I have bees in my backyard. They're not dangerous unless you're allergic to bee sting. And it doesn't require a lot of space. This one really loves me.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a lot of space. You can keep bees on your porch, I know beekeepers who have bees on their porch, on your rooftop. You know, it depends on the neighbors, of course.
And ideally, you want somewhere shady that it doesn't get too much heat.
You don't want it to get too hot, and you need some shade, and you need it away from where people walk.
Okay.
Because you don't want people going to and fro in front of the beehive. It kind of upsets them, and will cause them to come out in a hurry to defend their territory.
And that's a thing.